Ms. Bergfolk.
I'm a DCPS graduate who stayed in the city, raised two DCPS graduates, and have a third in DCPS right now. I'm also a veteran teacher, DCPS teacher in my 20th year teaching. Last spring, I downloaded and analyzed teacher salary data for the 5,500 teachers employed in DCPS as of 12/31/22 and compared it to the salary data from 12/31/2018. The data was striking. First, the data shows a system in crisis. Every school system needs a mix of veteran and new teachers. We need to bring in new teachers to replace teachers as they retire. But we need veteran teachers to provide expertise, mentorship, stability, and continuity for our schools and students, particularly for those schools and students that are the farthest from opportunity. However, the data clearly show that DCPS is primarily a school system of new teachers. As of 12/31/21, the latest data available, 1/5 of all teachers in DCPS have been with DCPS a year or less. 47%, or nearly half, of all teachers in the system have 5 years or less experience in DC. Only 2% of teachers made it to retirement. Only 2%, 125. Even fewer teachers are on track to retire in the next 5 years. Only 103 out of 5,500. And less than 10% of teachers are on track to retire in the next 10 years. This is a system in crisis. No parent, including me, wants their child to have a first-year inexperienced teacher. Yet DCPS has become a system of new teachers that come and go. And now and this is especially troubling as our nation faces the largest teacher shortage in my lifetime. Now, this is not an accident. It's not an anomaly. It's a system that DCPS has created and actively perpetuates. And when you look at compensation, it's easy to see why DCPS doesn't retain teachers. Teachers have not received any cost of living raises for the last 4 years. And their last cost of living raise was 2% back on 10/1/2018. During that same 4-year period, we've had the highest inflation in my lifetime. And as you can see from my hair, I'm not a young man. And Social Security, far from a leader in providing retirees with a livable income, will have given retirees 17.5% in cost of living increases during that same time. DCPS has a pattern of intentionally not negotiating in good faith with the union on cost of living increases, meaning that teachers will not receive any increases. This is the second straight time where teachers have found themselves in their 4th school year without any cost of living raise. The same thing happened in the contract before, from the 2012-13 school year to the 2016-17 school year, 5 years with no cost of living increase. It's a pattern and it's intentional. And DCPS is clearly refusing to negotiate. But they can do this because they don't care about teacher retention. They are only focused on putting their finger in breaks in the damn wall. They are only focused on hiring new teachers and filling vacancies. And the only way they can do that is by violating our contract and inflating starting teacher salaries, by giving teachers higher years of service than they have and paying them for graduate credits that they haven't earned. Like Montgomery County, our contract says that teachers can only receive service credit up to 9 years. However, as of 12/31/21, 139 teachers were placed on step 10 or higher, and they hired 102 PhDs. Even though DC is tied for the last place in the nation for compensation based on education level, somehow DCPS was able to hire 102 PhD teachers. And this has been happening for some time. If you look at the salary data, which I attached, 98 teachers were hired at steps above where they should have been last year, and 141 the year before that. And while we haven't any cost of living increases for the last 4 years, teachers with years of service from 2 to 8 somehow saw an average of 12% increase in their salaries. while over 1,000 teachers saw no increase at all, not even a minimal step increase. This is simply unsustainable. You cannot run a school system with only new teachers. DCPS does not have the highest teacher salaries. It has the highest starting teacher salaries. Impact is simply a racially and age biased compensation tool for DCPS to bring new teachers in the door at the expense of retaining veteran teachers. And in a national teacher shortage, it's unbelievable to me in a national teacher shortage that in this city, with this cost of living and with the needs it has for the students in the school system, we are again in our fourth year without a single cost of living increase. And the school system in the city decides to send it to arbitration. And I want to be clear about that because there is no Board of Education. The council, the mayor, the chancellor, they have decided that the best course of action is to refuse to negotiate and go to arbitration. That makes absolutely no sense for the students of this city. And the last thing I'm going to say, because I know I'm over time, is the the teaching conditions, the conditions for teachers are the conditions that students learn in. There's not a day that goes by that I and all of my colleagues don't reach into our pockets uh, to provide everything from educational assistance to home assistance for our students. We're the people who are committed, and you're taking those dollars out of our pockets, which means you're taking that money away from the students with the greatest need in this city, and it's disgusting. Thank you.
Mr. Bergfalk, you referred to an attachment to your testimony, but I don't see that unless it's a link.
Sorry, I emailed you a PDF, and I can email it to you direct. I think I emailed it to you directly as well, but I emailed you a PDF that has charts that show the compensation and the retention, as well as the racial and age discrimination in DCPS. And I'm happy to send you the raw data. I have names for all 5,500 teachers, and I have their compensation and their start date in DCPS for all 5,500 teachers as of 12/31.
Okay, I may have some follow-up questions. Thank you. Mr. Bergfalk, your testimony with regard to the years of tenure is disturbing, and that's not a comment on you, that's a comment on the system. But you also testified with regard to the pay. Now, I get that there hasn't been an increase because of the contract, but separate from that, you seem to suggest that the way pay is handled, veteran teachers are getting less. Isn't that a collective bargaining issue?
It isn't actually. So it should be, but in my opinion, DCPS is violating the collective bargaining agreement. In the collective bargaining agreement, there are negotiated salary tables by years of service. It's a matrix, years of service and education level. So even if there's not a cost of living increase, teachers can advance by step or if they earn additional education levels on their own. The problem is that in my opinion, DCPS simply can't hire new teachers at the rate in that negotiated CBA. I think the first year teacher is like, I don't know what it is. It's like 54,000. Nobody's going to work for that in the city. So when you look at the data, when you pull the DC government salary data, what you see, for instance, is that 139 teachers were hired in the fall of 2021 at a step that's higher than what DCPS can give them in our collective bargaining agreement. Like Montgomery County, our contract says that new teachers can receive up to nine steps, up to 9 years of service for previous work as a teacher. So the highest step a teacher can be on that's hired by DCPS is step 9. But in 2021, in the fall 2021, you see 139 teachers that were placed on a step above step 9. That's impossible. That's impossible unless DCPS is manipulating that and giving years of service that they simply can't. And the same thing is for the education level. And I believe that DCPS is not only telling these new teachers, come work for us, we'll place you on this high step, but we'll also give you education levels that you simply haven't earned to increase your salary to get them in the door. Impact does the same thing. The impact system we have, if teachers get a great evaluation, then DCPS will move them ahead on the salary steps, and even though they haven't earned those salary steps, and they will pay them at the PhD level, even though they don't have any graduate credits. Um, so that's what my
Well,
testimony is about. Yeah, go ahead.
but I don't want to spend too much more time on it. I, uh, this just strikes me as an issue to either bargain. Now, I get that there isn't a contract right now, and that is disturbing, but it's an issue to bargain or it's an issue to grieve. If they're violating the contract, the teachers' union's in a position to challenge that and say, "Hey, you're violating the contract," and to go before. I'm not sure if it's the PERB or OEA. I think it's probably the PERB, and similarly to bargain. I mean, because you make good points. We want veteran teachers. We want to incentivize their staying here, staying in the system. So I just wanted to probe with you what I was missing on
Well,
that.
yeah, I mean, I'll be brief here, but I think there are two issues here. Number one is that the grievance and arbitration process is simply broken in DCPS. So I appreciate that we can file that grievance. I have four grievances that haven't moved anywhere. I haven't even had a single meeting on that grievance. One of them is 4 years. The other one is over a year. It hasn't even moved to the first step. It's completely broken. And while I appreciate that, in theory, the union could grieve those issues, um, it seems, and I'm trying to figure out how to say it politely, but it seems unreasonable to me that the solution to a school system that is paying teachers for education levels they don't have, is paying teachers for years of service that they don't have, as a union issue. That should be an oversight issue for the city. That's just, I mean, it's flat fraud. You can't pay people for a PhD when they don't have a PhD. That's an oversight issue for the AG, for the city council, for the mayor. If we had a board of education, that's it. I think it's unreasonable to expect the union, through a grievance and arbitration process, where DCPS doesn't hire people for that office. It hasn't had anybody in that office. There's one person in that office right now, and they've only had one administrative person to even hear hearings. So
Well,
if the city allows that to happen, and then you push it on the union, I apologize for my tone. That just seems unreasonable and infuriating.
well, don't apologize, but I think it is for the union because if it's fraud, then the attorney general would maybe get involved. But the union has standing because it's a contract between the Washington Teachers Union and the district government. And getting into the level of detail of pay, that's the kind of thing that the Public Employee Relations Board would get into, not the council. And I'm not sure that the Attorney General would have standing, that it would have the ability to if you're right about the fraud. I mean, that's just the way the collective bargaining process works, is that there's a contract and it's for the union to, if the workers are being cheated, for the union to enforce the rights of the workers. And you may not like me saying that, but that's kind of the way I see it. Thank you, Mr. Bergfalk. And your testimony on the tenure, as I said before, is disturbing. It's helpful and disturbing.